Ok, bueno, vamos a dar una pequeña introducción. Gracias por conectarse en este miércoles en un webinar más de PolarisControls, esta vez con un tema muy interesante de una fábrica que venimos representando hace un par de años y ha desarrollado tecnologías de audio, video, residencias inteligentes, y este año trae una propuesta de control de iluminación muy interesante y está revolucionando la industria del lighting control. Así que antes de empezar, y en lo que se va conectando más gente, rápidamente y breve les voy a dar un repaso de quiénes somos. Nosotros somos representantes de fábrica para Savant en Latinoamérica y el Caribe. Quiero darles un poco de los recursos. La mayoría de ustedes nos conocen, solamente quiero darles un poco de los recursos que nosotros ofrecemos. Esta es nuestra página web, PolarisControls.com. Si ustedes entran al tab de contactos, van a poder ver el grupo de personas, el equipo de Polaris Control que trabaja en su región. Tenemos un representante en Colombia, República Dominicana, Puerto Rico, Centroamérica, y nuestras oficinas principales, México también, y nuestras oficinas principales aquí en Miami. Si entran al lado de contacto van a poder ver número de teléfono, WhatsApp, emails y toda la información necesaria. Por favor, si tienen alguna pregunta, alguna duda, si necesitan discutir lo que van a ver hoy, no duden en llamarnos o contactarnos por email, WhatsApp, etcétera. Aparte de eso, quiero mostrarles un poco de estos recursos que son completamente gratis y creo que es la mejor manera en que nos podemos comunicar. Tenemos un canal de YouTube, un canal en Instagram y una página de Facebook. Lo que hacemos y la manera en que tratamos de sacarle ventaja a estos webinars es grabarlos y subirlos a nuestra página de YouTube. Si ustedes entran a YouTube y entran a PolarisControls, van a poder ver todos los webinars que hemos grabado, información bastante interesante y necesaria para ustedes que necesitan estar al día con la tecnología. Aquí encuentran mucha información, los invito a que le den subscribe y sean parte de esto y reciban notificaciones de cada vez que arrancamos con un evento nuevo o un webinar nuevo o información técnica, videos cortos, etcétera, de cómo aplicar esta tecnología que nosotros representamos en sus proyectos y en su empresa y cómo sacar la mejor ventaja. I want to introduce now to Trevor and Kevin from Savant, who are going to give us an extensive webinar full of information about Savant lighting control. Trevor and Kevin, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for taking the time to show us the new technology. And I'm going to pass the control to Trevor so we can go ahead and begin our webinar.
Okay, thank you. Let me just make sure my screen is up. Not sure if we see the right screen now. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. Good, right?
Yeah.
Got it to play. For some reason, it shows paused. I'm not sure why. Bear with me.
Your second screen, and now you got your first. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, now it goes. Thank you, Manfredo. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having us today. We've got a lot of exciting things going on, and really happy that we were able to put this together for the Latin Americas. I'm Trevor Demat. I'm the Director of International Sales. With me on the call, we're doing this together, is Kevin Huppert, our sales engineer for the international markets. And we've got a lot to cover, so let's just get going here. First, I'd like to go over a few things in terms of the hardware. Then we'll switch it over to Kevin to go deeper into our centralized lighting, or new generation lighting, and then I'll take it back over again and go over like the control aspect of it, like how to control a system from an end user point of view. So let's get this started. No, I have no control. 1 second.
There you go.
Okay, so so basically, so starting with like some of the lighting devices that we have. So like the actual lights, the dimmers, the fixtures and such. We offer a selection of light bulbs for indoor floods and outdoor floods, and an A19 lamp style. So this mixes very well in with some of our other lighting fixtures that we sell. They're unique. They offer you a great cost reduction in terms of LED lighting versus conventional lighting. Also, what this is very good at is like solving the switch off problem that many run into with smart bulbs. And what that means is, in combination with our Savant lighting keypads, you have the option to select in the software to make sure that the load to the bulb never turns off. So even if you walk up to the switch, a Savant switch, you turn the load off, it actually just tells the loads to go off, and you can still operate the bulb directly from your Savant app as well. And of course, we deliver with these bulb solutions also our true image feature. So like taking a picture of the image of the fixture, and being able to see from the app itself the actual load dim or change colors. So these are full color RGB bulbs. So 3 different types here. We also have a selection of Pro light strips. These do very, very well right now. They can be used in any residential and commercial application. Some of them are also outdoor rated. We have a selection of tunable white and full RGBW. The WRGB is also an outdoor available. These are Dmx Control. We sell separately Savant Dmx Controls as well on our store. And these strips come in 5 and 10 meter lengths. They're trimmable, so if you have like shorter beats, you can certainly trim them, and they come also with pieces in there you could make connections, like T connections, or connecting 2 pieces together, so they come all together in the kit. And we sell these as kits. So if you're like, hey, how do I get started? You can easily go to our store and select like a WRGB kit, which then ships together with the strip, of course, but also with the driver. And all you would have to do is like buy the Dmx controller to make it a complete solution. We also have a really cool neon light strip. This is also outdoor rated. This has like a little cover over the LED strips. It's an RGB functionality. Also cuttable, comes with the jumpers, and again, Dmx Control. So these devices, so the strips as well, do incorporate into our full lighting engine. And with these, you can do true image and have full lighting control with them. To complete the lighting control over these bulbs, or like for like looking at replacing your maybe existing switches in the house or an older smart lighting system, we have a full line of high voltage switches and dimmers available as well. You might know that we had also the Metropolitan series. We recently expanded now the line also to have an additional Echo series. So we have our signature keypad with the dial. So that's here on the right-hand side, the right image here with the dial. The dial is very neat for dimming control or audio control. I personally tend to use them always for audio controls. Very easy, very tactile, especially in bathrooms and kitchen if you just want to change the volume real quick. A very unique feature, and I'll lay this out a little bit more later on, is also that you can assign any of your client scenes on any of these buttons on the keypads. They come simply in Snow White and Almond and Black. They leverage your existing Wi-Fi. We have a very easy process of onboarding as well in our software, and it's all done in simple Blueprint. So one single software to manage all of your Savant integration. The keypad on your left-hand side is configurable. The keypad automatically comes with 2 additional large buttons, and you create many different configurations out of them. They have an RGB backlight behind them, and they are custom engraved. So through the store, you would order 1 keypad, and later on, you would actually decide, okay, what is my engraving? And then you get a new keypad engraving kit sent to you, and you just simply replace them. The keypad is you can do like a large button on top, large button on the bottom. You can program any loads behind them, any lighting scenes, and again also triggers and your client scenes. The keypad comes in an adaptive phase keypad, and a switching keypad, and a MLV version of it. And then separately, we also have the relay switch available as well, of course, for your switches, and auxiliary units as well for your third party or your third leg switching. So complete lineup of switches here. Just as a note, if you're wondering, like, gosh, how does this function? Quite a few of us have this in our houses, so we do a lot of testing with these. I have about 32 of them in my house since last October. It's really great, easy to program, easy to configure on your Wi-Fi, and they do very well. So if you haven't tried them yet, please give them a shot. We use one single software, so there's a lighting software inside Blueprint to configure these. We'll go a little bit more into it a little bit later. But this gives you all the tools to quickly discover, onboard them, pair them, and actually then program as well. Or simply select a box and just have your client apply the scenes to one of these buttons. We'll go into a little more detail a little later. So then we also have our new centralized lighting system as well. We call it the next generation of lighting because we didn't just go about and create a new centralized lighting system, but we looked at like, okay, how are things done today and how do we think things should be done in the near future? And so not just tackling the lighting switching, but also energy management. So with our new generation lighting, we also give the client a view into their energy reporting, so through an energy reporting engine inside the app as well. We've got 2-channel modules. We have relay modules and different variations as well. One of the other really cool things I think about this new generation lighting is like it really eliminates a lot of cost. The cost that typically arises with proprietary panels. It's very easy to scale and change because it's just a matter of like popping these in a standard breaker panel. And if there's an expansion needed, then we can quickly add another breaker panel, add a breaker, and add some of our modules in there. So it's for the electrician in the field, it's very easy to manage and quickly to understand. And this again then ties into our entire lighting experience as well from an endpoint user view. So from here, we're going to go a little deeper into like all of these different elements that go into our new generation lighting. For that, I'm going to hand it over to Kevin, who will detail this further on. Change the presenter here, Kevin, to you. Okay, Kevin, you should have the option to share your screen.
Yep. Can you see it now?
Get out.
Yes, I think we have.
Yes, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go through the modules like Trevor mentioned. We are now coming out with a centralized lighting system and doing it a little bit differently. Instead of having a separate panel where you would have your lighting control modules, we actually have these separate modules here that this first run fits into a standard QO style panel. And we actually have Homeline series coming out soon. Each one of these modules would fit in a panel. They take up the space of two single breakers. And most of these modules are dual. As you can see here, it's a dual circuit, channel 1, channel 2 for the standard dimmer modules. We have a dual relay, and we actually have a 240 volt single relay, which is wired up. They're fed by a standard breaker. So you can see the inputs here, and then this specific outputs. These would go to the two lighting loads. Each lighting dimmer has a pair button, which allows us to recognize it in Blueprint live and pair it up, which I'll show you in a little while how that works. And we also have some main bypasses on this breaker. So if you're in programming mode or you're in a build, you can actually just bypass the control of these and turn these on. These lighting modules right now are controlled through Blueprint, through the host. You will see them available through a separate lighting app soon, so you can actually control them directly with a lighting app as well. That will be happening. I'd say we might show it at CD at this point. or a version of it. This will show you the four module types we have right now. We have adaptive phase, 2 loads, forward phase, 2 loads, a standard 120 volt relay, which is 2 relays, and we have a single 240 volt relay. Like Trevor said, these are lighting dimmers as well as energy monitoring devices. So the 120 volt relays and the 240 volt relays can be connected to washing machines and refrigerators to monitor energy consumption, and also maybe to turn off non-essential devices during a, if you have a power outage or you're on a generator, you can actually power down devices that are not essential. They're controlled with our panel bridge controller. Panel bridge controller can handle up to 40 modules. You can have multiple panel bridge controllers. The panel bridge controllers communicate Bluetooth to the modules themselves. It makes it really easy to pair with our system, bring them online, and also with this module, this is what would allow us to control it outside of the Savant host environment, because we could communicate directly to the panel bridge controller with an app. This here basically would just go above the panel, really simple installation, and then we can control them remotely with what Trevor mentioned, the Echo keypad line. We have high voltage and low voltage versions of these. You can control them with either one. If you're controlling them, if it's connected to an inline dimmer or an inline device, you can actually program the other buttons to control other lights in the system. So it's completely programmable. You can mix and match high voltage and low voltage dimmers throughout the house, and physically you wouldn't know the difference, but you're controlling different lines with it. This is explaining more or less what Trevor was talking about with the configurable keypads. Each keypad comes standard like this. You get 2 extra buttons, and you can place them in any order. And I'll show you later how they're configured in Blueprint. You can assign specific lighting loads, AV loads, volume control, dimming up and down. They're easily assigned in Blueprint and uploaded. You can also assign scenes. So you can give them scene buttons. So you can program maybe the top 2 buttons as something. You give the bottom 2 as scene buttons that the homeowner can do whatever they want to do. Turn a whole room on or turn a whole room off based on scenes they create in their app. Those low voltage versions of the keypads are controlled. They require inline voltage and control, and they're daisy chained based on a keypad power supply. Each power supply will control up to 5 outputs, and you get up to 20 keypads per output, but you can only have a maximum per module of 40 keypads. And these keypads can be stacked into this enclosure, this power enclosure. Now, if you're familiar with our shades at all, it's the same enclosure we use for the shades. So you can mix and match low voltage keypad modules with shade modules into the same enclosure. So we make it easy to deploy. You can actually you can stack on as many as you need. We also have, for smaller jobs, we have a little 10 keypad power supply, which is just these modules. You could, once again, you could use multiples of those as well. And they basically connect the daisy chain in line. So if you look at this diagram, this shows you how we look at it. So basically, we don't support a star configuration. We can support a daisy chaining in line up to multiple keypads. This here is a basic diagram of how a system would look if we're controlling it with the modules, the low voltage keypads, and some of our Savant lighting. So basically, we have the modules in a standard QO style panel. Each module is connected to a run of lights or a specific light itself, which gives you the dimming functionality. We're talking to that panel with a panel bridge controller plugged into the same network switch as the host. Once again, the low voltage keypads are also plugged into the same controller, same network system, and we're assigning specific buttons to either control loads or scenes. So it's a relatively easy, simple setup, easily to expand. Once again, you can do inline voltage control as well as low voltage control, all on the same system. This gives you an idea of how different deployment options are. Some people like to have, if you're replacing an existing lighting system that already has its own external lighting control dimmer modules, you can actually use the same format. You put a standard Curo style box on the wall and run your feeds from your regular breakers to your dimmers. Remember that each dimmer or module requires a feed from a breaker. So you can have one breaker feed multiple dimming modules depending on the load, what the load requirements are. We want to make sure, like, if you have a 20 amp breaker, you know, that your loads are not going above 20 amps. So you can break them up and have a single breaker feed multiple devices if you want. Or what a lot of people are doing is they're mixing and matching. They're actually putting them in the standard breaker panel. So you have breakers that are feeding the modules. It makes for a very clean install. Right here we're showing 220 amp feeding these. And you can actually have a single feeding multiples. Like I said, depending on your load, you want to make sure you match the load requirements to the breaker that's feeding those modules. It's relatively easy to set up again in Blueprint, and it's the same idea where you have your specific loads being run to the modules. The breakers are feeding the voltage to the modules, and we're controlling the modules through the processor. This will give you an idea of the standard dimming technology that we have right now. So we do standard low voltage, we do inline and phase dimming with the modules in inline Metro or Echo keypad, as well as you'll see this coming out later this year. This is a high power chandelier module that can be just put in a box above a chandelier and controlled the same exact way. We also do low voltage, which is you're just taking a low voltage connection, connecting to our system through a Dmx controller or a 0 to 10 volt, and controlling the system that way as well. We have with our modular series, we've also partnered with USAI Lighting. So we actually have lighting fixtures now that we sell in our store, and we have a great tool. If you get a chance to play around with it, if you go to our store, we have tools for keypad designs and for lighting and shade design, which walk you through specifics of what you need. We have different color technologies depending on the fixtures. Different ones have different options available. Classic white would be a standard light that we would just dim using phase control. You know, standard, we show you the ones that are available for that. Standard phase or 0 to 10 volt. We have a warm glow. Warm glow would be standard line control voltage plus a 0 to 10 volt controller to change the color of the light, or the hue, or the color of the white. Same with a tunable white. Tunable white is a little bit different in that it's we can actually change with the app, which Trevor will show you later, actually how it the color, the warm temperature of the lighting itself. So that requires a little bit different. These two here would basically just turning them off and on. Just like you would a regular bulb. The difference between warm glow is that when you adjust the level of the bulb itself, we change the hue of the bulb to represent the color temperature more evenly. As it gets brighter, it changes color to match it more even, how it would be in the real world. Color select is a little bit different. It gives you more defined specific colors. Infinite color gives you the option for a color wheel where you can actually change the bulb to any color you want. Because of that technology, that would require a Dmx controller. So each specific light has a specific controller that's recommended for it or is required. Our lighting designer tool will walk you through that. And when you select the lights that you want and the output that you want, it'll actually tell you which controller you should be using for that. Here's a little diagram of our controllers. This one here is a 0 to 10 volt controller. It do up to 8 fixtures. And they're basically controlled together. They're linked. You can do up to standard 8 standard outputs. This is really designed for the specific color of, like, you're doing classic white or warm glow. When you start to get into, this will show you here, it's just straight out to specific outputs that you're controlling these loads with. Now, be aware that this here is the control line. Each load or lighting itself will require the 120 volts to power it. We're just telling this to how to control it. Now, with this is a standard 0 to 10 volt example. When we're doing a tunable white example, we're doing two things. That's why it requires two connections from the 0 to 10 volt. One is to basically dim it, and the other one is to change the white values of that. That's why it's two specific ones. Dmx Control is what we need for all of our infinite color devices. This standard Dmx controller can control up to 32 fixtures. Once again, they're daisy chained. Dmx is always daisy chained. It's not in a star configuration. And this here allows us to not only discover the devices, but communicate through Blueprint. A Dmx example is very similar to what we saw before, except they're daisy chained. So Dmx control to one, out to the next, out to the next, and out to the next. Once again, this is a Dmx control that's a light. It has a Dmx controller built in, and each light would have 120 volts to power it, and we're just controlling it over Dmx. Dmx, the way we do it now is a lot simpler than what it used to be. You used to have to assign a Dmx addresses to specific devices. You'll see that in production world as well, where each device has a specific address. We don't do that anymore. We do it automatically with our controller. Our controller assigns the addresses automatically, and we discover those through Blueprint. So here's and I'll actually show you that with Blueprint to give you an idea what that looks like. Here's a standard Dmx control. Once again, it's all low voltage keypads hosted to a switch. We have the panel controllers. These are just providing voltage now to the lights. So it'll give us the option to completely disconnect them if you need to for load management. But the control is actually coming from Dmx. So we have the voltage going to it to power them, and the Dmx control is daisy chained and telling each light by address what it's supposed to do. This gives you an idea of what Trevor showed before, the lighting manager, and I'll actually go through that to show you exactly how it works. Let me just skip over this. I'm going to do it live here. So let me go to our lighting manager. In Blueprint, when you have Savant lights, you can actually discover them. We have a discovery tool which allows you to discover devices that are online and plugged into the network that are Savant devices. With that, you can add them into Blueprint relatively easy. Once it's discovered, it has an address. It'll give you the UID number and the firmware version. And firmware will automatically update from the host. Once you add it to your system, then you can actually go in. So let's take a look at the panel bridge controller. This is for those lighting modules that we have, all the individual lighting modules. Once you have the panel bridge controller and you have the lighting modules online, this controller is communicating to them over Bluetooth. You can simply go to a web interface that's already populated and with a predetermined ID of Savant lighting. From here, you can discover all these devices. These are all the modules that I actually have in my test configuration. And you can go into the individual modules and you can look at the device info for each one of those. You can also label them here. When you label them here, it not only labels it in Blueprint, gives it its name, but it also populates the name on the front of the display of the module, so you can see really fast what they are. If you do a large deployment, you can identify the device by blinking it. You can actually flash that specific device, so you know which ones you're connected, which ones you're labeling. So once you get all this labeled here, which is really simple web interfaces, nothing needs to be set here. All you do at that point is you close out, and then you connect. What we're basically connecting is Blueprint to that, and we're scanning those devices. It pulls in all the names of all the devices, and the little green dot will tell you that they're actually online. From there, you can determine what room you want them in. If you have a large house, you can decide by group which ones are in which room. And from here, you just sync with your lighting data table. And it puts all that in there for you automatically. There's nothing that needs to be done to get these into the system. So as you can see, all those are in right now. So it's same with the Dmx control. Dmx control is the same basic function, a web control interface. You go here, you discover your lights. From there, you can rename them, your specific lights, and then you pull them into your system. Once again, you go here and you just sync it up with our lighting data table, and now it'll put that LED strip into the lighting data table. One thing you can do also is once it's in your lighting data table, you can then move it around as well. You can change rooms here so they appear different in the app. It's always recommended to start here, but sometimes that's not always the case. So that's how easy it is to get our lighting into our system. The one thing, other thing I want to show you is our keypad control, which is what Trevor was talking about. These are configurable keypads. They come out with 6 keypad buttons by default, but as you populate the keypads with the buttons, you can change that in Blueprint. So so our configuration matches the specifics to the keypads. And from here, you can do a couple different things. Once you pull lights into our system through the web interface, they create default lighting scenes based on the dimmers or the specific devices, lighting dimmer scenes. So you can actually go at that point to the keypad and select the scene that's automatically created. So this button here will toggle that scene, that dimmer 1B, whatever I had that going to. That will toggle that scene on and off by itself. There's no other programming needed. It's really, really simple. You can also go into control, and you can actually make it do AV control based on a push or a toggle. And if you see here the Savant scene, if you select Savant scene, now that button will show up in your app, and you can assign a home or user-created scene to that specific button for whatever functionality you want. So it's really simple, really easy to do, really elegant way to get lighting into a system without having to do data imports and and specific import and output of files. Really, really simple way of doing it. So that's basically it for this. I'm going to hand it back over to Trevor, and he's going to go over how to go through the app and give you an idea of how it works.
All right. So let's see, taking it back again. Second, I'm going to make sure we got the right screen here. Okay, thank you, Kevin, for the presentation there. So you can see now that it's pretty easy to set up the lighting. The discovery of it is just remarkably easy. I went through this exercise myself, coming off of a different lighting control system, and it was just pretty blown away by the fact how easy it is to onboard these dimmers and add them to your system. It's very, very simple. So I wanted to go over then okay, what is it for the end user? What's in it for the end user, and how do they control the system? And keep in mind, when I'm going through these slides, that the user interface, the UI that we're delivering here is all driven automatically by that data table that Kevin just showed you. So it's the Dmx setup or the lighting setup in general it's frankly simple to do. But the UI that it delivers, this exclusive, pretty capable UI that delivers, is all derived from that data table. So there's not a lot that you would have to do to actually get this UI up and running. So here we are. We cover basically a true image. It's a unique device or unique design by Savant, something that we started off with many years ago. And in the old way of true image, you had to say, let's say, take about 100 pictures to create this image on the UI and show that you're changing the light. So here on the right-hand side, this light bulb here would change intensity based on your dimming settings here. Today, that's all done from the app. We actually have this in a separate app as well, but today we'll talk about the Savant app that will control your entire Savant environment. And so basically the client themselves, or you might want to deliver this initially for the client, can just grab the phone and simply aim at the image. And we're describing this very well in the app as well. And simply aim and shoot a picture. What happens then, once you click and take the picture, the load will actually go from on to off and back on again. Simply just white, on and off. And it creates then in the end this image here on the right side. This is within a minute exercise. Really cool. Easy to do, and if the client decides hey, move that reading lamp around, they can simply just take another picture when they're ready for it. And so with our bulbs, with our Pro light strips, with also the USCI lighting fixtures that we sell to you as well, you will then have full control. over that image. So you see here a dial where you have color control with the dial. So you simply just move this dial around, and here in the center, you have the intensity. And so when you change this image changes immediately. So you could even do remote control for the fixture, or you're simply in the room and you can see what you're doing. So it's a great, unique experience. This is very unique and it's patented, and nobody else offers this. So show this off when you can. So I kind of described already some of the elements that are in here, but there's a few extra features like saving your favorites. So if you've got a favorite, like a little bit of like maybe an orange tint or so, like just accentuate some of the wood tones in the house, you can simply save it as a color or even save it as a scene. It goes into very much detail, so you can keep it as simple as you want with changing colors. You can also enter in your RGBs. So let's go through this, like how that actually works. So if you look at the app, so this particular page shows you what is being displayed automatically in the app after you've done that data table sync. So automatically, this app presents these particular sliders here on the left-hand side, and it's the client that adds the image in the background when they like to. They don't have to, but when they like to. So the image is a very good identifier of like what load you're actually controlling, because sometimes it's just not that clear which loads the client needs to control. So that's the first step. Then if you slide that image over, so there's a little handle on the right-hand side there. If you slide it over, you have several options depending on the load. So once you select one of these options, you can now, for example, do the temperature control. So if you have our Pro light strip, for example, you can now select, very simple, with this little setup here, between sunlight and all the way down to incandescent light. Or if you'd like to have it a little more incremental, you can also slide this area here up and down and pick your own Kelvin. So this also spells out the actual Kelvin. So this is really unique. So now today with our fixtures and our interface, you can just very simply say, like, during the day, I want a task light. I have my bulbs, my light strips. I want like task light in the kitchen. But at night, when it's dinner time, when we're having a glass of wine, just drag this down to something of a very warm setting. Very simple, very intuitive, just like you used it from the Savant App. And then I have again that little the dial with like setting up the colors with our fixtures, with our bulbs, fixtures, and our light strips. So at any moment somebody can change the dial. On the right and top side here, you see also a little plus sign that creates the favorite for the client. So the client can actually save this color, so they don't have to do it over and over. And then lastly, also like you'll have your individual RGBW sliders. So now you can also like make your individual changes, and you can even tap on these little digits here and actually type them in. Maybe for the more commercial projects out there, if they know their RGBW settings, they can type it in manual as well. And again, save it. Not just save it, by the way, as a favorite, but simply save it as a scene. And so the famous Savant scene engine as well. So maybe it's a good morning or a good night or dinner time setting. You want to just select that Savant scene, and there you go. You can save it. And keep in mind, like Kevin just showed you, that scene, that Savant scene can then be saved in the app, through the app, on a Savant Keypad as well. So if you created your scenes here in these pages that I just showed you now, you can save it directly to a button without having to go for the setup every single time. So this is the individual slides. So yeah, like I described already, you can create these scenes then as well. So now you can also add timers to it. You can change them. So that's a unique factor as well. But I always try to like bring home over and over, like how easy it is to use, but how easy it is also to change. So if you set a time for a particular color temperature, maybe it's 5,000 Kelvin, you can go in and change it from 5,000 to maybe 4,000 Kelvin. Or maybe change the color, so you're never stuck with this scene. So it's very unique, and again, always demonstrate this to your client because this really sets us apart. I wanted to show you also in this slide like how simple it is, because we just talked about it, but how simple it is to actually assign that design, that scene by the end user to a heart button of our keypads. So it's simply in the settings of your app. So once your system is all set up, and you've set your keypads up in our software with, like Kevin showed you, like some of you want to lock down, typically your top button, maybe the top two, lock them down for the loads, and then leave some one or two open. That's kind of like how my configuration in this house. Then ask your client to simply go to the settings of the app and select the keypad settings here. So right here's the keypad settings. From there, you see the keypad settings, you'll have like the keypads that are available in the system to assign the scenes to. I selected here the theater, so now I'm in the theater page. What I don't show you here, but there's also like a very nice informational section here that actually pops up the actual keypad. So if clients are like, I'm not sure what I'm doing here, they can click this information icon here and simply see what that layout of that keypad looks like. And the next step is basically like looking at like which buttons are available. You see here, some are custom configured and they have a lockdown. And that's the big fear from a lot of clients out there is like, if I make these changes, am I going to screw up the system? No, you'll never screw up the system. This is a layer on top of it that the client has access to. It's very flexible. But here, for example, I have a button, the fourth button on the piece, that I can do something that has no lock. And if I select that, the next page is basically my selection of scenes. And all I have to do is just pick my right scene, check it, and click done. Now it's assigned. It's simple as that. It's within a few moments, you have the scene assigned to the button. And again, if the client decide like, hey, you know what, with that away scene, I want to actually leave the hallway light on, they can just go in the scene, make a little edit, nothing changes here. It's still the same scene. So really powerful, very flexible. And then again, we're talking about lighting here, but this is like anything in the house, right? This could be like climate control, shades closed, music off, or some music playing, anything in an environment that you can capture in the scene engine. So kind of going back very early on what I said about, and Kevin said about the new generation lighting, it's not just a new way of doing our centralized lighting, but we also are looking at a new element, energy management. And it's something that we've done previously as well, but we're doing this now in a much more modern way, and it's very unique in our entire business environment. Nobody else is offering this. And so we're with these modules, the companion modules, also showing the client like, hey, what is your usage for these systems? And like Kevin was saying, like with this, you could say like, you know what, I'm turning a few breakers off, a few modules off to maybe like consume a little bit less. So let's say it's an area in the house, there's nobody in there for the time being, you could just turn this off as well. We have great insight here with time frame as well. So over time of what is the consumption per application, per room, you can filter down to a certain time. And it's just a really neat extra way of showing the client like what else they are getting. Again, unique. So if you're like, okay, I need that one last thing to sell this client on this new generation lighting, this is what they get with the system as well. And this is becoming a very important factor for end users, knowing what they're using. Wanted to show you also a few things of what is coming. Actually, before I forget, we spoke extensively about the Dmx controller and how easy that Dmx system is to set up with the RDM topology in there. We're also about to start shipping in the next couple of months keypads with the Dmx control built in as well. So if you got that single room, maybe it's a commercial type of project, you got a single room control, you can do that directly from your keypad as well. So keep your eyes open, peeled. You'll see this at CEDIA as well, that we're building a lot more product with Dmx built in. What's coming shortly as well is also circadian rhythm lighting. So now, with our lighting control system as a whole and the lighting fixtures, we can control the temperature at any time of the moment. We can also do this now automatically for a client and create circadian rhythm. Basically, what we're trying to recreate is the nature of light. In the morning, light is warmish. During the day, it becomes a little brighter, like task lighting. You want to be able to have clear light to get the task done. And at night, it needs to get warmer again. And that's what we're basically mimicking as well inside the house with artificial lighting. But what we're also doing is not just delivering a circadian rhythm experience, but also give you the flexibility to change it. So very much in Savant form, we're giving the client a lot of use case over this experience. And so here are a couple of ideas of like how you can change the brightness in that first window here per time frame. So you can change the time and set the color temperature. Then the next time frame, so that's the next level, is at 10:30, change the brightness and make it warmer. From there on, I can simply select which loads I want to incorporate in circadian rhythm lighting and then simply save it as a scene. And so I can run the scene. So now the client can actually just like leave the scene activated and just let it run automatically. So, and you can do this by rooms, by certain loads in rooms. And it's a very, very unique feature. And trust me, this is a big thing in the lighting world here, and we're making it again very easy in an app format to control this. The next other thing that we're looking to deliver this year as well is actually having things automatically happen within the time frame. So like create like different settings throughout the day, different temperatures, and actually have like this kind of like a very unique experience, and creating like a more of a different lighting experience for the client. So with that, there's a lot more information that we could share with you here. We wanted to give you just a good overview of like the possibilities with our lighting. It's unique, it's easy to use. It gives the client and your client a very unique experience in their hands with the apps. But there's a lot more materials to cover here, and we're happy to do this like on an individual basis with you as well. But we also have our Savant University, where we really work hard on like delivering you these video courses with like in-depth training on like how to do this. But if you're ever like in need of like, hey, you know what, I have a design that I'm looking into, and I'd love to like look at this new generation lighting, or maybe our Echo high voltage lighting for a job that you're trying to change over, please reach out to us. We're happy to help you. We have training materials available. We have our design tools available in our store. There's much more out there to help you through these projects. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Manfredo, and we could actually probably take also some questions and see what we can help to answer here. So let me hand this over to Manfredo. Let's see.
Thank you, Trevor. It's a lot of information. It's an excellent presentation. Some of the questions that we have is, there's one about the strip lighting and the meters on the strip light. Is how I guess the rolls are 5 meters and 10 meters, right?
Correct. Yeah. And they're still cuttable. So when you get them in the kit, you'll also, it's easy to buy them in kits, because then you also get the appropriate driver. The driver controls and supplies the power to the LED strip. But those are the two lengths, 5 and 10.
Correct. And still, you can add another circuit and you can add more strip lighting. Depends on the needs of the specific project. I guess the question for was for a specific application. But
and keep in mind, right? And keep in mind, if you're doing the WRGB strip lights, like each Dmx controller that you will purchase can do up to 32 drivers. So you don't need a Dmx driver or Dmx controller for every single light strip. You buy one for up to 32.
Right, and you can also group them so they act as one light. So you can group multiple strips into one fader. So one fader controls them as if they're one.
Correct. Okay. Another question is, can the modules for the next generation lighting control an AC split system? Those are split that are very common in our region. This AC mini split or AC split systems.
Yeah, mini split systems. Correct. Yeah. If I follow it correctly, it would be pure from a power function, right? And you would have to just look at the wattage case here as well. So you could put a relay module, and we have a high-powered relay module on it, simply to monitor the energy and to also be able to like shut it on and off. But actual control, so setting temperature, fan speed, that would be a separate entity. That would be I actually happen to have that in my house through Coolmaster. There's a new Coolmaster wireless hub system that actually does the full control. But our modules can overview them, and you could shut it off. And again, energy management. That's the big thing then. Does that answer the question? I'm not sure if I was trying to follow that, but
yeah, that's another thing. Please feel free to write us with more questions. I'm getting some questions on my WhatsApp and my Skype. Some of them are, what level of acceptance have you seen in the rest of the world for the low voltage integrator going to work in a high voltage panel in their new system?
Oh, yeah, great question. So look, a little bit, maybe a short bit about me. I live in New York City. I've been in the lighting business for quite some time, meaning the lighting control business for quite some time in audio video distribution and with Savant. And initially, gosh, when I started this off, this was a different lighting brand. My low voltage integrators were like, "Well, do you want me to sell lighting switches?" And then it became shades. But very quickly thereafter, this became a major part of their business. And today, some of our top dealers will share with us that about 60% of their revenue is lighting in general, right? So we're talking about shade and light switches. So it's actually quite common for the integrators to actually be involved with lighting. And most of them have partnerships with electricians in the field. Some big firms actually have actually the license themselves as well. But most of them have partnership with electricians in the field. Look, typically electricians, they want to run point to point. They've got their like every run is so many dollars or whatever it is, and they don't really care to know about the technology. So they're open to this. And frankly, if you look at our new generation of panel lighting, this is for them very easy to oversee as well, because it's labeled, it's very easy laid out. So yeah.
Yeah, one thing is when you're dealing with high voltage panels, since these are just going into standard QO panels and also home line, electricians are very comfortable with putting these in for you. So, they're very comfortable with it. They're very familiar. They snap in like a standard breaker. They're really easy to configure. They don't have to do anything, to be honest with you. They just run the wires and plug them in. And then you come along and program them. You don't even need to get your hands on them necessarily. So we've seen really great adoption with them just because of the ease of install for electricians.
Excellent. I have another here. Does the smart bulbs consume power when the Savant switch is always on, but the bulb is off?
Yes. Yeah. So those bulbs are active bulbs. They're LEDs, but it's an active bulb, much like a Philips Hue would be. So they consume a minimal amount of power. I'd have to look up to see exactly what it is, but there's always a 5-volt charge on the little PC board that's in there to keep it active. So yeah, it's consuming a certain amount, but not enough to be registerable. Yeah.
And I think all the smart bulbs at the end of the day consume. When they are
they have to be active all the time, so you can turn them on. If they lose power, they do go through a cycle, just like the Hue ones would, where if the board is coming online, it goes to its default setting, which is usually a white. So they do need to have constant power.
Yeah. When is the home center? When the home center for the modules will be available?
The home line version, you mean?
Home line, yeah.
I think
that's around CEDIA time, huh?
Yeah,
CEDIA time frame.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just as a note there, right? So like we state this now, like, hey, around CEDIA time frame, but nothing ships, and maybe some of our attendees here are not familiar with this. Nothing ships after like an extensive alpha and beta testing period. So maybe going a little bit back to that electrician story. Like, we've done extensive testing with this in the field as well. Actually, as a matter of fact, I had 2 big systems in Mexico running with our centralized lighting or panel companion dimmer modules. So we do a lot of testing. So we expect it to ship around the CEDIA timeframe, but if something holds us back, we will hold it back. No product will go in the field that is riddled with bugs. So just wanted to throw it out there as well.
Excellent. Okay. What can I do? I need more than 10 meters of LED strip. I have to buy another kit of Dmx driver and strip, please. Yeah. I mean, I guess you mentioned it before, right?
Yeah. I think that's the same thing. Like, look, and I don't know if you can extend it a little bit beyond the 10 meters, but typically you buy the kit. That's just the driver and the strip, right?
Right.
You're not going to buy another Dmx controller. That's that controller. If it's wired accordingly, that controller can do up to 32 drivers. So so you're not buying this over and over and over. But yeah, for a certain length you do need a certain driver. We have 2 different options for that.
Correct. And always, if you guys have an application for the audience, feel free to write us and give us something, and we can come up with the best solution. So how to handle it.
For sure. Yeah.
Can you do a quick comparison against Lutron lighting system? They said.
Yeah. So we actually elected this time to leave it out of the webinar. There actually is quite a savings on and it's not just Lutron, but any panel with proprietary power panels in there. So if I just look at the equipment alone, it's roughly, but depending on the size of the job, but we've seen so far between 10 and 20% because of the proprietary panel, and it really changes if the system grows and grows. It's with the flexibility that then comes in as well. If the system grows or change I need, it's really inexpensive in terms of change. But roughly 10 to 20% is what we've seen so far.
Excellent. Yes, this webinar is going to be, I hope, this afternoon available on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe. If I did it right, if I press the right buttons, I think I'm recording it. So it's going to be available for you guys and your field and designer people this afternoon in YouTube. Another question here is, do the keypads will also work with the energy monitoring?
They will in the future, the Echo keypads. It's not today, and the energy monitoring, so like showing it in the app, is today only on iOS. Things always evolve beyond iOS. There are provisions in the keypads as well, but today it comes off the modules. And I'll give you an idea, for example, like I have an extensive, I think Kevin too, extensive equipment rack with all sorts of Savant gear in it. And I have like one module just directly powering the entire panel. I have a small little electrical panel right behind it. So I can see the energy consumption of the rack alone. But it comes off the modules today. That's where we're starting.
All right. There's a question about an application. If we can go in a separate case because it's a specific with an application. And I email you the question, Trevor.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, emails both. Yeah, happy to do that, right? Happy to go for the designs, for sure.
Yeah. I want to invite you and Kevin for another one. I think all the questions have been overwhelming. I'm getting WhatsApp and Skype questions here, so I'm going to email it to you. One by one for sure. And invited you for another one, Trevor. This has been very useful. A lot of good information.
Appreciate it.
I'm gonna post it this afternoon, so we can.
Okay. Yeah, happy to do more. And if somebody's like, hey, you know what? I just did this in Guatemala. It's like, hey, we need a presentation for a team of designers. Just engage with us, and happy to work towards you. And the other thing I wanted to add here, and this is something that we consistently have done, is if you've got this job and you're like, man, I'm a little bit nervous about doing my first job alone, call on all of us, call on Polaris, and we're happy to remote in and help you get going. So it's with anything new, it's always kind of like nerve-wracking. How do I do this? Well, we got plenty of people that have done this many times, and we're just simply excited to show what we can do with these systems. So just give it a try. We'll get it to go with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Everybody.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming on.